Like to call the meeting, the agenda, the work session, March 23rd, 2021. Right now at this time, we're going to call the public hearing to order. The public hearing is regarding proposed tax abatement in Old Town Belton redevelopment plan pursuant to section 3.53.10110.362 RS Mo. So who do we have tonight? We've got Miss Yatsuk today is going to do her introduction at this time, please.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The public hearing this evening pertains to the proposed Old Town Belton redevelopment plan. As you will recall, staff presented this proposed plan to encourage the redevelopment of the original Belton, which is known as Old Town Belton, at the work session on February 23rd, 2021. And pursuant to state statute, the taxing jurisdictions were provided notice of this evening's public hearing, and the return receipts you will find in your council packet. Later this evening, on the regular agenda, under item F, will be the first reading approving the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan pursuant to Chapter 353 of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri, establishing the redevelopment area as described as a blighted area as a whole, approving the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan policy and articles of incorporation. Mayor, at this time, you could open it up to public comment if you wish.
Okie dokie. With that, I'd like to ask, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the 353? Come on up. I'm going to take another drink of coffee and give everybody a second. Seeing none, we'll say from that point on, back to Carolyn.
Okay.
Do you have any more here? You going to do something today? Here we go.
Mayor, Carolyn has some letters of support from some of the taxing agencies she'd like to read into the record.
Thank you. Thanks, Alexa. So the letters of support that we have received for the Chapter 353 for Old Town Belton come from Cass County Commission, signed by Commissioner Monty Kisner and Presiding Commissioner Bob Houston. The Mount Pleasant Special Road District, Cass County Corporation for Economic Development, the Belton Chamber of Commerce, the Belton Community Foundation, the Belton Cass Regional TDD, and Downtown Belton Main Street, Inc. I will read one letter of support into the record. This one letter is a representation of them all. Dear City Council, this letter is to express full support of the proposed Chapter 353 for the redevelopment of Old Town Belton. This proactive program will spur redevelopment for both residential and commercial buildings, which will benefit both residents and business owners alike. It will be exciting to see appropriate improvements and renovations to eliminate blight as a whole in original Belton. Old Town Belton has significant amounts of older homes and businesses, many of which have not been well maintained. If fully rehabilitated to contemporary standards, Old Town Belton will become an even greater asset, which will strengthen the economic viability of not just Old Town, but the city as a whole. In an effort in learning that most of Old Town Belton was constructed between 1872 and 1930, it is apparent that this area is worthy of an incentive program that will revitalize the heart of the city. It will also increase foot traffic for Main Street and spark the interest of businesses and new residents wanting to locate on Main Street in Belton. This one is signed, we the Cass County Commission, are in full support of the Old Town Belton redevelopment Chapter 353 plan, and again, signed by Presiding Commissioner Bob Houston and Associate Commissioner for District 1, Monty Kisner. At this time, I'll turn these letters of support over to our city clerk.
Okay, thank you. You guys have done a great job. Staff has done tremendous. And I remember the former city manager was passionate about Old Town, and it's good that this staff has picked up the torch and done a great job. This is going to make a big impact for Old Town Belton. It'll be wonderful. And again, this is just pretty special, a lot of work, and we appreciate all the support. With that, any comments for now, or you want to save it till later? Okay, so we're going to adjourn the public hearing and move on to calling another work session. And we have items for review and discussion. What do we have?
Mayor, this evening we have discussion regarding the Southview Commerce Center and the rezoning of that. Starting this evening will be Dave Clements. This item has gone before the Planning Commission. Dave has an overview of that item. So Dave, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you very much, Mayor, members of the City Council. To members of the audience, my name is David Clements, Director of Planning and Building for the City of Belton. I'm going to provide an overview of the proposed application and summarize the Planning Commission's recommendation. The application pertains to a rezoning of two parcels of property, rezoning from an existing M1 light industrial district and from an existing R3 multifamily district to the FCI Flex Commercial Industrial classification of the North Scott Corridor Overlay District. Now, the applicant is North Point Development. They are the developers of Southview Commerce Center. North Point has completed construction of approximately 2,100,000 square feet in 3 buildings and successfully leased those buildings to 3 national users. The plan under consideration this evening would provide for the expansion of Southview Commerce Center with a proposed building number 4. I'm going to work into a few slides. The first slide is a little busy. Oh, can we get the slides up on the monitor? There they are. Okay. First slide's a little busy, but I think it's important to take a look at existing conditions. So let me take a few minutes and break that down for you. The rezoning parcels I will describe here with the cursor. This parcel is the former location of Century Concrete. It's about 5.5, 6 acres. Century Concrete site has been vacant for about 15 or 16 years. It is left in a blighted condition, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. There is an existing telecommunications tower on the site and a ground compound, and those facilities will remain. The second parcel to discuss is about a 30-acre site here. This is presently improved with a single-family home, and you can see a variety of outbuildings. There's 10 barns and sheds across the property, so I guess I can describe it as a former farm or a farm stand. Those are the 2 parcels that are involved with the rezoning application. This site is an existing platted single-family subdivision that is Sunset Hills. There's approximately 53 platted lots in Sunset Hills, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few moments. The applicant is proposing to rezone those properties as I described. I did mention the blighted conditions of the former Century Concrete plant. I just have several sites that indicate existing conditions there. It is heavily blighted with litter, trash, and debris, illegal dumping. And as was discussed at the Planning Commission, I think the Planning Commission recognized that a key element in this redevelopment request is eradicating the blight of this property, and I'm sure the City Council will understand the significance of that and not underestimate the opportunity to redevelop this is what I believe is the most blighted property in the City of Belton. The wrong way. Here is the proposed redevelopment plan. This is a 501,000 square foot building. Main point of access on 155th Street. There is a secondary point of access on the South Outer Road adjacent to the entrance for building number 3, which is Chewy. a second point of access here. This is a 501,000 square foot building. As I stated, it's a cross dock building with wings or office bays at each corner. The Flex Industrial District of our North Scott Corridor Plan is designed to allow a variety of industrial commercial users in a planned development with attractive architecture, landscaping, and site planning. As I stated earlier, Building 4 would be identical to the existing buildings in the Southview Commerce Center. Trying to get a better look here at the residential portion of the plan, Sunset Hills. This is about a 20-acre site, approximately 53 lots. The redevelopment plan also includes about 7 acres of open space at this location, a 10-foot buffer, a 10-foot berm, kind of a serpentine berm through this area here, along with the preservation of some existing tree lines and the integration of a walking trail, which is the extension of the existing trails in the Southview Commerce Center. Can't get there. I think a key element of the plan is the proposed addition of 22 single-family lots on the former subdivision. This property is zoned R1. These single-family lots will be developed pursuant to that R1 zoning, and that includes the extension of the existing Stubb Street Star Times, extending Star Times Drive down to 157th Street. 157th Street would be extended from its existing Stubb location here, terminating with a cul-de-sac. This would create 22 single-family lots. The lots range in size from 17,000 square feet to some extremely large lots at this location of about 22 or 23,000 square feet around that proposed cul-de-sac. The lots are designed to provide a new buffer for the existing single-family homes along White. It's approximately 900 feet from the rear property line of the homes on White Drive to this property line here. So you can see that distance across here and how those two tiers of single-family homes provide a very nice buffer, integrating the new residential development into the overall plan. The applicant also prepared at staff's request a line of sight drawing. And I'm just going to touch on that briefly. I know the applicant team will talk about that in a little greater detail. What this just demonstrates is that existing single-family homes on Star Times, as you see here, Valley Road and White Drive. The important thing is in looking at this cutaway is that the sight line indicates that those existing homes and the new proposed homes along Star Times would only see the top half of the proposed Building 4. The truck docks and the trailer loading area, as you see here, is completely screened by the berm, existing trees, and the general topography. So it's important to note that the sight line is very limited, again, to only the top one half of the building. The items tonight also include a special use permit for warehousing. North Point filed this application to allow a blanket special use for the building, to enable them to lease to a specific user should the opportunity come about to move quickly on a lease and not having to come back and have a separate public hearing for a special use permit. And that's the exact same procedure that we did with the Southview Commerce Center in 2018. I'm going to conclude and just park on one slide here, if I can just take a moment and sort it. This is a slide that North Point prepared and used at the Planning Commission meeting. And I think it probably depicts the overall development with the existing buildings in a really, really nice scope and fashion. You can see the existing 3 buildings here along the outer road. The proposed building 4, as I've described, is here, and the new 22 single-family lots are in kind of the lime color here. And you can see how they are added to Star Times Drive and provide the additional buffer that simply does not exist with the existing buildings 1, 2, and 3. These buildings are 400 to 500 feet away from the rear lot line on Allen Avenue, and that's a very generous setback, and we are very, very happy with that kind of dimension. But having the ability to place building 4 at again over 900 feet away from White Drive and to drop in the 22 single-family homes makes an overall very attractive land plan and provides a great buffer with the proposed 7 acres of open space with the berm and trail as an additional sightline barrier and buffer. The Planning Commission considered this request last Monday at their meeting of March 15th, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a 6-0 vote. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that Planning Commission recommendation or any of the items I discussed this evening, and of course the applicant team is present also.
Councilwoman Davidson?
Questions that some of the residents out there asked me to ask about. And is North Point going to develop the houses, or are they going to sell it to a developer?
Well, let's let the applicant speak to that. I think they could better speak to that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then I have another one, is did we do a traffic study on 155th Street? They was concerned about the trucks using that road.
Yes, sir, there was a traffic study submitted with the rezoning application.
Okay. And they was worried about the trucks not being able to turn in there after they get around the roundabout with the cars going the other way. And that was about the only things that they requested. So.
Thank you.
Do we want the developer to talk first? Okay, why don't we have the developer come up?
You can do it from there if you'd like, or you're welcome to come to the podium if, I don't know if you have a presentation. Okay, that'd be great.
Thank you, Dave. All set. Good evening, everyone. This is Brent Miles, and again, I do this probably almost every night of my life, so I want to follow your protocol. Do you prefer mask on? Matter? Okay. Well, I'll probably take it off so you can hear me better, and seems like I'm in the plexiglass cage anyway here. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Brent Miles. I'm one of the founders and owners of North Point. Probably, obviously, most of you are familiar with us. We're based in Riverside. Many of you have been to our office and toured our park and Horizons. And, you know, obviously, we're talking about Building 4 tonight. I don't think it can go unsaid to say how proud we are of the first 3 buildings. And I think the park and what we've done and accomplished together in a public-private partnership has been, I thought it would be successful. I never thought it would be this successful, just to be honest with you, to essentially pre-lease the 3 buildings to 3 national tenants. As Dave said, we caught lightning in a bottle, and then again, and then we caught big lightning in a bottle with Chewy, and that doesn't happen every day. So thank you, and we should be proud of that regardless of the outcome tonight. We hope the outcome's positive, doing it again. And that's really what we looked at was, you know, we really believe, we say it all the time, that capital goes where capital's welcome. We've been welcomed here. We think it's been a success. We've been pleased with our partnership. We hope you've been pleased with our partnership. And we looked at an ability to try to expand that even further. Can we expand to the south? Could we expand to the north? And how could we do it? Where else could we do this in Belton? Because we think the labor works really well. We think transportation works well. Our public-private partnerships worked really well. So we came back for more because we like to go where people like us and where we invest and where we've seen good things happen. We saw the Century Concrete plant. Dave used the word blight, and we know that was, I would say, I can't speak for all of you, but from what I heard was a priority. How could we get that into a productive use? So I don't want to go too far in the details today. I know we're going to, you know, go through a development agreement process with you all, but if you look at what that thing is generating today, it's been vacant 15 years. Obviously, you've got vacant residential lots that aren't producing any economic outcome, no jobs. How can we put that into economic use? I'm happy to say, you know, to date, we've invested as a firm $120 million into your city. That's, no matter where you go in this country, $120 million is a lot of money. And we want to put another 30 plus million in it. Let's make it around 150 and call it a day with this park. And that doesn't count what the tenants have put in the building. If you've seen and you've worked with Chewy, they're putting millions of dollars and they put thousands of people to work in the facility. So I think that's of context. I don't mean to beat you over the head with it. It's just of context of why are we here tonight? Why do it again? And that is because we've been pleased and we want to further that success. So many of you know us. For those of you in the crowd who may not know us, we're based here in Kansas City. Many people don't know us. We're the largest privately held landlord in the entire U.S., and I'm proud of that. I started the company with 5 of us. We have 616 employees today. We have smart guys like Chris on our team that's really leading the charge here on this project. And Chris has spent a lot of days and hours getting these properties under contract. And so I'm proud that I take this around the country with me and say, yeah, I'm from Kansas City. I'm proud of it. I wanted to say 2-time back-to-back Super Bowl champs, but I didn't get to say that. So if any of you are familiar with our parks, for those of you who are on the council, you know, you got to tour Riverside Horizons. You know, we redeveloped the Corriette 3 trails. We have a new project starting up, and we took the banister. Chris and I worked tirelessly on the redevelopment of the banister. Chris worked more than me. I took more of the credit. We have a new park starting up in Liberty and Clay County that we're really excited about. But none of those parks, honestly, have been successful like the success we've seen at Belton. And that's a variety of reasons. We built the right building at the right time, with the right labor, right transportation. You got to have a good recipe. We got a good recipe here. As Dave said, you know, this is kind of the context of where the 3 buildings fit in with the 4th building proposed. Again, just what we could buy, the setbacks, the buffer. We turned the building. Originally, we had the building going the other way. We wanted to be sensitive to the neighborhood. We shrunk the building by about 100 and some thousand square feet, turned it on its side, and really provided more of that setback. I know the 22 lots have been a question. We don't do single-family residential. What I would say, you know, just put it out there, and I think Chris has communicated this with some of the residents that have reached out to us, is, you know, we're more than happy to put a deed restriction. This is not a bait and switch. We can't fit another building. We don't want to put another building. We'll put a deed restriction on it to single-family use. I would say generally, and appreciate anybody's feedback, we can work with a developer, a residential developer, and have somebody come in and take those lots and build houses. I know that's a priority of the community. We heard that from the superintendent when we met the superintendent on site. We don't have any interest in developing that, and we don't do single family, so we know what we are good at and we know what we're not good at. Let's get somebody that does this that's good at it, and you tell us who the builders you want, and we'll go try to bring them into the community and see if we can get some new housing stock up here in this corridor. But we can do a deed restriction. We can protect the residents however you want, however you feel comfortable as a council. And we just don't have any intention of doing that. I know we've excluded that from the development agreement and things like that, just so we're very clear, like, any tax abatement pilots, anything related to those 22 lots, they don't apply. So I think it provides, obviously, we provide a great berm and buffer. Obviously, as you mentioned, the traffic study. I think what this does is it really completes the next leg of the park. It gets us up to 155th Street. It's going to have access on 155th. Also gets that next access down on the outer road, and then shared access with the Chewy building. So, you know, I think this is the right building. We built the right size, and we're able to lure those national tenants, and I think this is the right size. I appreciate you guys hearing us tonight. We are chasing a tenant here. I'll just be full disclosure. We are chasing a tenant here. We have not come close to landing that tenant. Your approvals are important for us to get closed so that we can order steel. If you don't know what's happening nationally, steel is in crisis. And the faster we can get our steel order in, the faster we can deliver this building, the faster we can put people to work in this building. So thank you for hearing us. I know it's a lot of meetings that we're going to have weeks in a row, but getting that steel ordered and getting our place in line helps us land those tenants that we're trying to land right now. And that's a really important aspect to try to get this thing done. If all holds well, we get our steel. I think, Chris, we're probably delivering this building. If there's not people working in this building a year from today, I'd be highly, highly surprised. I think it'll be faster than that. I'm happy to answer any questions. Chris, I know you went through a lot of this with the Planning Commission. Obviously, we've met with residents. There was, I think, 4 groups that had came that we specifically reached out to, answer any questions. We want to be a good community partner. We know that there's residential close. It's not as close as the first phase. I'm not tone deaf to that, but at the same time, I think we're taking a blighted piece of property and turning it into something really good that the community can be proud of.
Well, thank you. And Carolyn, what do you have?
Brent, I've seen your slideshow here, so I know you have one more that discusses the water line.
Yeah, for sure.
Just as a friendly
Thanks.
reminder.
Thank you, Carolyn.
I guess you have 2 more, but yeah, there's the water line.
So here's the water line. The thing Carolyn said, don't forget to talk about, I forgot to talk about. The water line, and again, we're going to have this discussion in the development agreement. I think, you know, previewing it a little bit with you tonight, I think how we approached the first 3 projects in the public-private partnership was, how do we get the infrastructure, how do we get the roads in? This one really came to, we didn't have a ton of infrastructure that we specifically needed, but we felt for public benefit that there really needs to be, you know, more infrastructure. And honestly, your staff came and said, we have a list of improvements that we've got to do. We've got to do water line improvements all over the city. You've got one close here that's on our list. It's old. I don't know how old it is, but I know it's old. And, you know, is that something you could tie into? And so Chris reworked his plan and how we're tying into it to get our water pressure and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's get our building taken care of, and let's get an old, probably rusty line out of commission for you guys and get it replaced. And I think, you know, the water line, I think we're at maybe 800 and some thousand, 800,000 of our contribution into your kind of public water line system. Again, you're going to talk about this in the DA, but you know, we've committed to the school district to do a workforce center. I think that's really great here. We have you know, obviously you have kids that aren't going on to a 2- and 4-year university. I think your superintendent and that school board is really pushing to have Metropolitan Community College and their stamp down here make their home in Belton. We're going to put them in this building. That helps our tenants when the Chewies of the world come and say we need to hire people. We get people through that system certified, get them into jobs. Some people just aren't going to college, and if you can start at Chewy at $19 an hour or $18 an hour plus benefits, that's not a bad start if you're 18 or 19 years old. So again, happy to answer any questions. We're pretty open book about this. We want to invest here. We want to do this building. But at the same time, we want to be sensitive to the planning. We want to be sensitive to the council. But I think this is another great public-private partnership to get this piece of ground into productive use.
Okay. Councilwoman Davidson, you were next.
Yeah, sorry, I have a few things.
Sure.
I watched the planning and zoning meeting Monday, and was a little concerned at the lack of discussion that happened, but I was kind of taking notes then and now, and wanted to kind of go over some of this. And it may not be exclusively for you, but
Yeah,
just,
no problem.
you know.
If we can answer them, we will. If it's staff,
So I don't feel comfortable at this time that there's an adequate plan for the trucks. I know that there's been some damage on 155th Street to those roundabouts where trucks are coming through, so that's one issue.
Okay.
The second issue, I don't know if anybody's been on Allen Avenue recently, but it's a mess. It's a real big mess. There are, I mean, like lawns are dug up, there's huge pipes sitting out there, there's gravel everywhere, I mean, all down the road. And I don't know how much of that is a response to the development, your original development that's up there on the hill or not, but, or where we're in the process of all of that. That being said, I want to make sure as we're considering this next project that we're incorporating any learnings from the original project if they exist. I feel terrible for the people that have homes on Allen Avenue, just having been down there in the last 2 weeks, and I don't want to do that to anybody else. And then, so the water pipe issue, we have so many, but I wanted to address that. First of all, I appreciate you being open to a partnership in getting that line done. I also feel like, well, you know, we just finished a budget and we're kind of aware of our water line situation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the money to pay for that. So it would be nice if you guys would just pay for that. I'll make the suggestion. So there, I've made the suggestion. And then the deed restriction that you were just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
Does deeding or placing a deed restriction, does that prohibit rezoning in the future?
We can. The deed restriction is as strict as you'd like us to do. We can do that from a zoning standpoint. We can do that from a deed restriction standpoint. Doesn't matter to us. However, we can be most transparent that there isn't a bait and switch there.
Yeah, because I think that residents are afraid, you know, even though we're saying there's going to be 20-some lots there, that it won't, 10 years from now come down and somebody wants to build a commercial, like say the, residences aren't built out, that somebody might want to buy those up and then have it rezoned for commercial, which is almost an easier case to make with building 4 being there. I mean, you could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can put as strict as deed restriction as the city would like and have you all review that as part of this. It's no problem.
And then I know that you said you have a tenant in mind. It's hard, I mean, I have a lot of questions about this, obviously, but it's also hard not knowing if that tenant is going to be sales tax generating or not.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of a business they're going to have. Let's see here.
Would you like me to answer your questions one by one?
If you,
I can.
whatever you got, yeah.
So, I mean, again, I don't want to be argumentative. We didn't know, we never accounted for any revenues coming off of sales tax when we did buildings 1, 2, and 3. And what I look at is, I know, I'm sorry, I can't remember, Councilman Savage, you always say, show me the numbers. So I think we were conservative in that when we did our projections, we showed you the pilots and permit fees and all those. In my viewpoint, sorry, it's a little hard to see with this bar. In my viewpoint, sales tax is not something that you can bet on because you don't know if the company is going to produce it. And then secondly, if they're going to produce it, are you going to get point of sale? And I think one thing that's really important to remember is that we didn't count on that, right? We never put that in a revenue model anywhere. We never put that in the numbers, as you would say, Mr. Savage. But, look what we did with Chewy. When we got Chewy to elect point of sale, all point of sale coming from the state of Missouri on a really large number. So you, not only do you get the point of sale, it's not something you had counted for. So again, I'm only stating my position, which is we didn't know who was going to take building 1 or 2 or 3. We built all of those and got them approved without knowing and not counting on it. So I think your projections are conservative. Is building 4 going to be a sales tax producer? Potentially. Can we get point of sale to Belton? If they don't have other operations in the state of Missouri, it doesn't harm us. Just like we did with Chewy, we pushed and you pushed to say we want you to elect point of sale as part of the agreement. And again, that helps you because that's a sales tax generator for you. So we can, if there is a point of sale opportunity, we can put that in the development agreement. You have counsel here. We're happy to say, or the other thing is that this is probably, we can include this in the community improvement district that's already here, right? We can expand that boundary and make that a requirement of the community improvement district, that North Point elects that if the tenant can do point of sale, that we will require in the lease that they make point of sale Belton, so that you do get those sales tax.
And then last question, and so what kind of incentives do you think that you'll be seeking, or are you seeking?
Yeah, so we're seeking a pilot schedule. It's greater than, I'm gonna make sure I use the right word. We're paying more than the original pilot schedule that we had for 1, 2, and 3. And again, happy to discuss it here, happy to discuss it in the DA discussion when that happens. But I think that what we found is that recipe has worked really well. Your staff pushed and said, we feel like the redevelopment of this is important, but we felt like the bigger project was more important. We'd like to see you up your pilot schedule. And we'd like you to pay more in permit fees. And we'd like you to do a water line. And we'd like you to put a workforce training center. So all these things were, negotiation on a one building plan that, again, if I had never met you in building one building, I probably would have said no. But I cared more about the totality of the park, and you guys have been a good partner, so I said yes. And that's what's gonna get presented to you. I think honestly, I know they're here, I think your staff has done an incredible job of pushing as much as we could get from a return standpoint with our partner, which is, again, Northwestern Mutual, who did the first 3 buildings. So you may think that that's just me giving them a compliment. The negotiations were tense. But I feel like they pushed and protected your interest. I heard that through the whole process.
So then I guess I would just, and I'll let somebody else talk, but I guess I would just end with, I feel like we need a better plan for transportation of the trucks around that area. I would love to see North Point cover the full cost of the water pipe. And then I think the deed restriction is completely necessary to make those who are already living in that area feel like that area is not going to be turned into commercial at some point.
Yeah, no problem. And again, not to argue your point on the truck traffic, the first thing that we ever did, Chris, I think your first task ever at North Point was, I said, run me your own model of trucks going through that roundabout. And Chris said, that's not a roundabout, it's a diverge-about. I said, run a truck model through the diverge-about. And because that was our concern, and that was a MoDOT built, MoDOT designed for trucks. Now, was a trucker eating a cheeseburger talking on a cell phone and tear up the roundabout? There's a chance of that. But it is designed for trucks, and we wouldn't have ever bought the golf course if we didn't think that we could get trucks through it, and we wouldn't have been looking at this if we didn't think we could get trucks through it.
That enough?
And I don't think we're doing anything, Alan, I haven't noticed that, but I don't think that's related to us.
Actually, yeah, the Allen Avenue project is the stormwater project.
Oh,
and
the
I'm gonna turn-
stormwater?
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
going to turn over to Greg at this point. Greg, if you could provide an update. We were going to do it at the end of the meeting, but we might as well talk about it now.
So the, the project has been going pretty smooth. It was supposed to end in December, and the contractor does have that one lot by the culvert that he's using to stage his equipment and store materials as he's working. And so because of the wet spring, he's not been able to get all his work done because all the water is passing through it. So he's hoping if he gets about 2 clear weeks of no rain, that he's going to be able to build the walls that are down in the culvert, the wing walls at the bottom, get those built, and then he's going to be able to finish the driveways and get out of there, get all his materials and get out. And that's what the plan is there.
So we paid for, I think, 50% of that. You guys are doing the work, so I probably misspoke a little bit there. We're just not doing the work, so it wasn't on my radar.
Go ahead.
Just to piggyback off of that, I've seen 2 comments this week, it may have been a week and a half, of people off of Allen Avenue or in that area that think that they might have damage to their structure from the blasting. So just to put that out there.
I think we had surveyed, we met with every resident, surveyed, and went back and resurveyed. So I'm happy to address those one-on-one if you know those folks, but I think literally we've been in every house along there.
City
Mayor?
Manager, go ahead.
Yes, Councilman Finn is online with us this evening. He's via Zoom, and he did want to be called on. He had a
Councilman
comment.
Finn.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Mr. Miles, thanks so much for coming in this evening. I like the way you've turned the building and the way this is going to work. The setback is phenomenal there because it's almost twice what the other buildings are. And I had a question for you on the residential piece here.
Mhm.
As you know, I'm looking at the lots. What part are you going to be putting in as far as infrastructure on those lots, or are they just going to be zoned residential?
You know, I think we're open to those suggestions. You know, we hadn't necessarily planned to put infrastructure in. We can do that. I think that's how it would work probably, if I'm thinking through how this will probably play out, is that we'll probably go to 2 or 3 builders. Chris, I think, has already reached out to 1 or 2, asked them what they'd like that transaction to look like. I'm guessing it's probably we build the streets and then they take the lots. So we can do whatever you'd like. It doesn't matter to us.
Outstanding. Yeah. I do sell real estate locally, and we have a housing shortage if no one's noticed that. And at the rate of speed that your team can move and get things done, it's one of those things I think that would be in the best interest of the city to have that conversation with you. And if that infrastructure is placed and those are platted and ready to go, I think the builder could come in and take those lots down and get those homes built quickly, which would be a huge benefit for our community. Looking at just the average price point in our city, new construction's well above that, and you can't build for less than $300,000 in our current market. And the reason why I bring that up is because we talk about tax dollars, and you're looking at probably about $4,000 per home on each one of those sites right there, plus an opportunity for someone to live in our community. So I see this as a huge benefit if the infrastructure could get placed. I appreciate the deed. You guys have been good partners, so I think that's just one piece of it. But honestly, we get the infrastructure in, I think we're going to be moving quick on these lots in the city. People need homes here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, we're open to any direction that you have as council to say, what do you want to do with this? And again, we don't build houses, so we're happy to move right into action of whatever you see. I know that housing is a big one of the cities.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions at this time? Councilman Trutzel.
I'd like to go briefly back to the water line. The water line was never originally in your plans.
No.
That was something that came up in discussion with city and yourself.
Yes.
You know, it's to our benefit. Actually, you're creating benefit for us by what you're proposing. At the same time, I think it's not realistic to expect you to pay 100% of something that really you calculated into your price of your building and what you need to have to return profit. So I think, you know, there's a point in there where we as a city need to be receptive as well to a builder that comes in and spends X amount of dollars, but not push them to the point where you become like, I can't do this because it's not financially equitable for me anymore. And again, like I would say, is that we benefit by getting our costs reduced. I mean, it's still costing you money, but we get the benefit for doing what needs to be done in a timely fashion. So just want to make sure that was understood.
I want to make sure that we're clear. Our relationship is a solid relationship. We are married. We are. We have a development agreement, and we're put $120 million into your community. Did we argue over who should do the dishes with this water line a little bit? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I felt that it was fair If I didn't think it was fair, I wouldn't have agreed to it. So, the water line helps us and it helps you. The Workforce Training Center helps us and it helps you. Those aren't unreasonable ask. I got asked to expand, just to be honest, I got asked to expand the training center. I said, I can't do any more. I'm at my return threshold. I can't get that approved. And that was it. There's no hard feelings. It's just, we have an open, honest dialogue about what can and can't happen. You guys have an older city with old, aging infrastructure. Everybody does. We can help part of that, put it into the building and still be okay financially, then everybody wins.
Councilman Clark.
Mr. Miles, did I hear you correct that we're putting in the water lines, or you're doing your water line, or?
Yeah, so, let's see. I don't know, maybe I'll have Chris, if that's all right with you. Let's use this, if I can get this thing back on. We'll talk about what we're putting in and what we're contributing from a financial standpoint, from a
Okay.
cash standpoint. Does that work for you, Chris?
And maybe what I'll do is just kind of try to track this a little bit. So just kind of a little bit of background. The original solution that we looked at of, how to get water to this building was simply to make this connection. If you see the cursor there, and this blue dashed line is the existing 12-inch main that comes up the outer road. So the original thought was to extend that main here and then come into the building and, provide water service that way. Then we had the conversations with your city staff, and we came up with, working with them, this other alternative. So that other alternative really is to replace this is an existing 6-inch line that kind of runs all the way up Allen from 162nd all the way up here to 155th Street. So our proposal was to replace that main, and there's a red line on here. It's really difficult to see, but it just kind of tracks this cursor to here, and then replace that with an 8-inch water main and upsize it and get a new main in place. And then there's an existing 8-inch that's in 157th, so that would remain in place. And then connect to that 8-inch main and reroute. There's actually an existing line that kind of runs right through the building here that serves the Grand Hill duplexes. And so, we would make that connection here at the end of 157th Street. And then reroute that line around our building to maintain service to those two cul-de-sacs. So this work, the work that what I would qualify as like on-site work, that work we would fully intend to pay for and construct ourselves, the relocation and everything, kind of be in control of that. The conversation that we had so far with staff is that the work here that we would do to serve that building, plus the additional work that would upsize this 6-inch main from 157th up to 155th, that whole line here would be paid for by us through some sort of cooperative agreement, and then managed by city, as they, put it together and kind of try to get bang for their buck of, the additional water line improvement that they would take on from what I would call 160th generally here, down to 162nd. So this orange line is the additional 8-inch water main that would be put in place. So all of this orange and this red all the way up to 155th would kind of be one big project that you could let to a contractor and, get pricing, based upon the size of the package, the size of the scope. And which we would contribute our share of that cost from, this red line here.
I guess my question is, I think we can get more bang for our buck if you did the line instead of us doing the line.
In all actuality, Councilman Clark, there's a requirement in the state of Missouri because of the prevailing wage laws that if it's going to be public infrastructure, it still has to be done via prevailing wage.
Oh, does it?
Yep. So, what? Yeah, we looked at it and Sid said no. So, sorry, Sid. So,
And it's okay with you, and again, we're open to this. We thought that, obviously there's going to be services, right, as you take people and transfer them over the line. Do you want us to interact with those residents on those services, or is that something better for you?
I just typically know that the private industry can do it cheaper than us, and that's what I was trying to, if you're gonna pay for 2/3 of it, let's let you do it and let us pay for the third and
Sure.
move
Well,
on,
I'll
but.
tell you what we do have better control of, in my opinion, is professional services. So one of the things that we offered up in this program as well is that we would go ahead and pay for the professional services, the engineering and surveying work for the whole entire project. So we can push that along a lot faster, more than likely, than what the city could. And then get that done, and that'll be something that we take on as a cost share to us. Like, we'll pay for the entire project, the surveying and the engineering. And then we'll take those plans as those plans are reviewed by your city staff. Then when those plans are finally approved, then we'll turn that package over, and then you guys can bid it out and conduct the work.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, anybody? Okay. From here. Mayor. Yes, I got. Yeah, Councilwoman.
I'm back. I had one more question. So the water rates that these commercial buildings have, are those the same water rates that residents have, or is there a different rate for commercial? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know your rate schedule. Typically, they're higher.
Thank you.
Councilman Clark.
I know I have a commercial building and just my cost, I think, for the loan side or the debt service is actually higher on my bill. So,
Anybody else? Okay. Do we have anything else over here? Carolyn, City Manager?
no, Mayor, that concludes the work session.
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the work session, and at this time, we're going to call the meeting to order. If you'd all stand for the pledge. We've got a scout, Councilman Clark's day today, and he was very glad to have Ezekiel, a Boy Scout. Would you come up here and lead us in the pledge? Got to get that merit badge, so we'll help him get through here. You can come in through here by Councilman right in front up here. Oh, okay, come on up. Let's put him right there by that. But we want everybody to see you now, so. Okay, here we go. You're up. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. You did a great job. Amen. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Davis,
Here.
Councilmember Savage,
Here.
Councilmember Lathrop,
Here.
Councilmember Trutzel,
Here.
Councilmember Van Winkle,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
here.
Councilmember Finn,
Here.
Councilmember Davidson,
Here.
Councilmember Peak.
Here.
Okay. I've got personal appearance. First one, I think we want to do Chief first. So we're going to have right now at this time a proclamation for the long-term to Chief James Person, the police chief of the department. Do you want to go ahead?
You bet. Whereas James R. Person, retiring Chief of Police of the City of Belton, Missouri, has served in law enforcement for the last 41 years in his hometown of Belton and is highly respected by fellow law enforcement officers, civilian employees, and volunteers. And whereas newly graduated from Culver Stockton College with a Bachelor of Science degree in Administration of Justice and Sociology, James began his esteemed journey of law enforcement on January 1st, 1980, when he took the oath of office to become a patrolman. And whereas with the successful completion of the Kansas City Police Academy, James moved steadily through the rank of Detective of Juvenile Investigations in 1982 and into Detective Sergeant of Juvenile Communications in 1986. James's strong advocacy skills and desire to serve, protect, and defend others shows in his work in these positions and throughout his career. Striving for the safety and well-being within the school atmosphere, James forged strong relationships with the Belton School District, which led to the creation of many educational law enforcement programs, including Belton Cares, the Drug Abuse Resistance Education Program, the annual Red Ribbon Week program, and the implementation of 5 full-time school resource officers throughout the district. And whereas James was appointed to Chief of Police in 1988, and as the incoming Chief of Police, James participated in the design and move into the then new Belton Police Station and oversaw the 2009 expansion needed in order to service the growth experienced in Belton. And James effortlessly transitioned from managing 20 commissioned and clerical staff to nearly 70. And whereas ambition and dedication are marked throughout James's personal and professional life, in 2002, James obtained his master's degree in public administration from Park University. Dedicated to bringing the best to Belton, James applied for and was awarded a grant to be one of the first in the area to have in-car video systems, a huge achievement for a more simplistic technological time. And James continued advancing Belton technologically, being among the first to have in-car data terminals, automated ticket writers, computerized records that link to the court system, automated fingerprint identification, officer body cameras, and more recently, auto license plate readers. And whereas James's servitude to the City of Belton shows in his participation on several boards and committees, including the Kansas City Metro Chiefs and Sheriff's Association, the Missouri Police Chiefs Association, the Metro Squad Board of Directors, the Belton Education Foundation, the Cass County Community Health Foundation, and the Salvation Army Southland Corps Advisory Board, to name a few. And whereas, as requested by the governor of the state of Missouri, James was honored to serve on the Missouri 911 Oversight Board, where he worked persistently for years to establish a mechanism to close the funding gap that left many Missouri counties without the means to pay for public safety services. And furthermore, James also served on the State Board for Integration of Criminal Justice Information Systems, where James fought for ways to connect online communications at city, county, and state levels among law enforcement, the courts, prosecutors, and corrections. And James also served on the Task Force of Criminal Justice, where he represented law enforcement and court reform recommendations that would be heard by the Missouri Supreme Court. And whereas, as Director of Emergency Management, James has taken many steps to ensure that public safety remains top priority within the community, including acquiring a grant for an additional position of Deputy Director in Emergency Management, oversight of the emergency operation plan to aid in the response to disasters and emergencies, ensuring that Belton's siren notification system adequately performs when emergency arises, taking part in creation and implementation of the Cass County E911 system to help easily locate individuals seeking emergency assistance, and during the 2020 coronavirus pandemic, help lead Belton, Cass County, state, and federal officials in the fight against COVID and ensured that Belton was protected and citizens stayed informed on the latest information surrounding the pandemic. And whereas Chief Person has made an unforgettable impact on the city and citizens of Belton and our region with his untiring efforts throughout the years, resulting in notable contributions, James' continued courage, dedication, steadfast commitment, and unwavering service has been witnessed throughout the city, for his love of community is evident in his actions as a servant and statesman for the citizens of Belton. Now, therefore, Mayor Jeff Davis of Belton hereby joins with the City Council and city staff, extend our most sincere gratitude and many thanks to Chief James R. Person for his 40-plus years of untiring service and time-honored commitment to the city, and congratulate him on his well-deserved retirement as Chief of Police on April 13th, 2021, with best wishes for many years of happiness. In witness whereof, the mayor hereunto sets his hand and causes the seal of the city to be affixed at Belton, Missouri, this 23rd day of March in the year of our Lord, 2021.
Photo op, if any of your family wants to get some shots here.
It'd have to be a real wide angle.
Where do we want to go? Hey,
Debbie,
congratulations.
would you like to
You
join
did
us?
great. Let's get some pictures over there, see what we can get. 40 years, Chief. White's gonna come up, and you can say your words. Oh, come on. I know, I'm sorry. This is my best look. Good luck here.
Oh. She was following directions. I'm just gonna make a couple of comments. I'm not gonna take a long time. I know that's unusual, but, you know, nobody's gonna make it, 40 years without a lot of support. And I've got to say that my wife Debbie has been there the whole time. She has put up with me, and all of the meetings, all of the commitments, all of the time away from our family. She just about raised our 3 kids by herself. And I can't say enough how much I love and adore and respect all that she's done. Our children have been raised here in Belton. 2 of our 3 are here tonight. 2 of my now 5 3/4 grandchildren are here tonight. We are having 4 COVID grandchildren. 3 of them have already been born this spring, and the 4th one will be coming the beginning of June. And I can't say how happy we are to have 6 grandkids and be able to spend this time now with them. I have 5 siblings, and 4 of them are here tonight, and the 5th one is watching online from Quincy, Illinois, and they've been remarkable all this time, and I can't say how much I appreciate their love and support, and the fact that we're all still around. So it's been a good ride. I started counting today how many mayors I had served with over the years, and how many council people, and it's hundreds. And I have had a good time and a lot of support, and there's been a lot of growth. I was, as I'm cleaning out my office, looking at some old documents, and I happened to come across a 1988 plan that I presented to the council about the reorganization and development of the police department at that time. And to be honest, not a whole lot that was in that plan would change as far as what we would be talking about today, except for the population, which has doubled, and the number of employees that we're responsible for has now tripled. The growth is remarkable. Family, for those of you that were watching on the screen earlier, that was the golf course we were talking about, and the other development were some of the farms that we all saw around town. And I know you all think this is the post office, but it really is City Hall. So we all grew up here in Belton at another time, and it has been remarkable living here all this time, growing up here and raising my family here, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So thank you all very much. This is my last meeting. I'm out of here.
You want to give, city manager, you want to tell directions now, how we're going to do this at this time?
Yeah, there is a break scheduled right now for some slight refreshments to celebrate Chief's retirement. If we could take a short little 10-minute break, and then we'll resume the meeting.
Okay, 10 minutes. We're adjourned for 10. I'm going to call back to order. We've got consent agenda, one motion, non-debatable.
Mayor,
Got
we
it.
actually have another personal appearance.
Oh, right. I've got him in here somewhere. Dr. White, would you come up, please?
Mr. White, would you please read your name and address into the record?
Yes,
Oh, there it is.
my name is Dr. Brett White. My address is 608 Mallory Drive, Belton, Missouri. I want to thank the City Council for this opportunity to briefly speak this evening. For transparency purposes, my name is Brett White, and I am a candidate for Ward 4 City Council. I first want to start off by saying I'm not against Southview, Commerce City rezoning and housing plot. But I am concerned because I received some information from constituents, and if I'm going to represent people, I need to start representing people now. So on March 15th, I attended the Planning Commission where they held a public meeting on considering the rezoning of 155th Street to allow the fourth building to the Southview Commerce Center. There was a handful of individuals who shared their concern. All of the citizens left early because they were upset because they did not believe they were taken seriously. They all expressed what they perceived the commissioners had already made their mind up and were not really interested in hearing their concerns, even though there were some questions asked. After I left and met with them, I came back in. After the meeting, I approached North Point and requested that they meet with the individuals and discuss their concerns. I told Chris that I didn't think he'd win a whole lot of many of them over, but the meeting could go a long way in alleviating concerns and help developing community support. I also indicated that I believe meeting with the citizens and listening to their feedback might provide useful information that might help improve the project. This afternoon, I was informed by the city administrator that Chris had met with some of these individuals. And at this point, I want to thank you for reaching out to those individuals. I hope you found it productive. And I'm going to be following up with those individuals too. But I think it's very important in reaching out to people to develop community support. And the greater the community support, the greater the community is going to have buy-in. And so I, again, want to thank you for that, reaching out. That was they were very positive about that. And Mayor, I promised you to keep it under 30 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and end now and not finish with the rest I had.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, consent agenda. One motion non-debatable to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Regular agenda. A motion approving the final reading of Bill number 2021-11.
An ordinance approving the proposed fiscal year 2022 city budget as revised and appropriating funds from the revenues of the city.
Present.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Seeing none.
Mayor Davis,
Aye?
Councilmember Savage,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Van Winkle,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Peak, Clark,
Aye.
Finn.
That motion passes.
He said aye.
Aye. A little late.
An aye?
Aye.
It was delayed? Okay. Okay, B, motion approving the final reading of Bill number 2021-12.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2021 adopted city budget for the purpose of increasing the budget for the Public Works trucks purchase and decreasing the budget for the inspections department.
Present.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Seeing none.
Councilmember Savage,
Aye.
Peak, Davidson,
Aye.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Finn,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Van Winkle,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Mayor Davis.
Aye. That motion passes. C, a motion approving the final reading of Bill number 2021-13.
An ordinance approving an amendment to the city's zoning map from R1 Single Family Residential District to C2 General Commercial District for 1.90 acres of the parcel located on the south side of East North Avenue at Apple Valley Parkway, Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
Motion and second. Okay. Discussion. Councilwoman Davidson.
So just to clarify, so that little piece of land, they're going to fill in that, gully or valley or whatever you would call it.
Retention pond.
And have to grade? Or what's the plan there?
They'll revise the grading and topography and provide some additional storage, and the stormwater management will go under 58 Highway to the Markey Detention Basin.
Okay. And then there was some chatter this week about the potential of a coffee shop to go there on the end. I interpreted that as completely speculative. Like, would you agree they don't have, a coffee shop could go there, but that's not the only thing that could go there?
Well, the plan included an 800 square foot kiosk. It was, described as a coffee shop, but it's a preliminary plan and it can be revised when a final development plan comes forward when users have been identified.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none?
Councilmember Trutzel,
Aye.
Peak. Aye. Davidson,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Finn,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Van Winkle,
Aye.
Savage,
Aye.
Mayor Davis.
Aye. That motion passes. D, a motion approving the first reading of Bill number 2021-15.
An ordinance approving an amendment to the city's zoning map from an M1 light industrial district and R3 multiple family residential district to an FCI flex commercial industrial district for 26.55 acres of land located at 5901 East 155th Street and 6107 East 155th Street, Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none.
No. Councilman Clark has a question, Mayor.
Oh, there he is. Okay, Councilman. It's just kind of like when you pitched. Okay.
Threw it right past you, right? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it was a zinger. Okay.
Dave, I don't have my iPad today, and I was trying to look on my phone. I couldn't find the R3. I see we're rezoning R3 and not, so are we actually also rezoning the R1 at this time, or they're just bought all that land and they're keeping it R1, so where was the R3 at? Was that actually part of the original plot of that land?
Well, there are two questions. The R1 is existing Sunset Hills subdivision plat that is going to be changed to provide the open space and the 22 lots that we discussed earlier. That's R1, there's no change there. The R3 is what I described earlier. It's the 26 acres with the single-family home and the 10 outbuildings. It's just east of the concrete plant site.
That's where it was platted originally?
No, that's just.
We zoned it sometime in the past as an R3.
Yes, it's zoned R3. It's
You
unplatted.
said it was east of the concrete plant,
Yes. Mhm.
but west of the homes?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
That motion passes. Okay, E. Motion approving the first reading of Bill number 2021-16.
An ordinance approving a special use permit to allow warehousing in an FCI flex commercial industrial district in the Southview Commerce Center, located at 5901 East 155th Street and 6107 East 155th Street, Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
No.
One no. That motion passes. Okay, F. Motion approving the first reading of Bill number 2021-17.
An ordinance approving the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan pursuant to Chapter 353 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri, establishing the redevelopment area described therein as a blighted area, and approving the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan policy.
Present. Second.
Motion and second. Councilman Clark, discussion.
Mayor Davis, no discussion for me, but I'm going to recuse myself at this time since I own property in this area. Thank you.
Where's your property? Okay, I was just kidding. All right. Anybody else? Councilwoman Davidson.
A couple of things. there was some discussion when we originally met in our work session about this. And one of the things that we talked about was the possibility of retroactive abatement for projects that have been done recently. And then also, I don't know if we talked about this or this is just me, but potentially looking at a yearly cap on the number of participants that we allow, just to kind of manage the loss in personal property tax, if somebody would like to discuss that.
As for the question regarding looking back and abating projects that have already occurred, as we discussed in the work session, all projects that will receive abatement will require an amendment to the plan, which will require a public hearing and an ordinance amending the plan by the city council. So that decision will be purely up to the city council as those come about. We ought to get a pretty decent feel, especially because once these start kind of moving forward, we're not going to go 5 years back for something that's already, we're 3 years into the plan. And then the cap, again, that would be just another decision that the city council could make when these projects begin to come forward, whether or not 5, 10, 20, whatever is too many for a year, that would be up to the city council.
Did you want to say something, Carolyn?
I did, actually, thank you. So I would ask if it's appropriate I would like a little bit of guidance, if I could, as to council's feelings on retroactivity. I don't want to waste a lot of people's time if they do come to city staff seeking abatement. So is it appropriate for me to ask for feedback?
Councilman Savage.
I'd be happy to answer that. My view on it would be that, no, we're moving forward from here. Secondly, on the other piece, I think I would welcome as many people who wanted to improve as we could possibly get. So that gives you 2 from me.
Anybody else? Councilman Van Winkle.
No, I agree with Councilman Savage on both the points he just voiced.
Anybody else? Councilwoman Davidson.
So it sounds like this would create kind of an umbrella program, and then if somebody who has invested recently, they could just approach the city, fill out an application, and then it would be brought to the council as to whether or not we decided to give them a retroactive abatement.
Attorney?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. For me personally, I'm open to that, but it sounds like it's just dependent on whether or not we have somebody that would bring it to us, so.
Councilman Finn.
I would agree with Councilwoman Davidson for once on this. I'd be interested in looking at that. I mean that in all goodness there. But yeah, we've had a lot of business owners come in recently, very recently, and they're dropping a lot of money or they're investing a lot of money within our community in our Main Street area. I think that's an opportunity we should look at. To actually reward some of those people that have gone first without knowing there was even going to be any benefit. So I would be in favor of that.
Councilwoman Peak.
I agree with Councilman Savage and Van Winkle, but I also wonder if maybe for those that have recently come in, if maybe we couldn't include something like they could apply for a maximum amount, like, I don't know, $2,000 or something, to let them know that we appreciate them coming, but maybe putting a cap on what they can actually ask for. Just a thought.
Next, Councilwoman Davidson.
And to my second question regarding the yearly cap on participants, it would be interesting to see like a document that it would be hard to do because you'd have to make a lot of assumptions, but it would be interesting to see if, if we had 10 participants in a year, maybe that's even ambitious, I don't know, 5 to 10 participants in a year, and we, each property or each improvement was valued at $15,000, what the implications are of that from a property tax abatement, just to give us like some sort of baseline as to what we would be out.
And city staff could complete that, and I would also note that under this Chapter 353 plan, abatement doesn't occur until after the project's completed. So depending on the size of the projects, like, say somebody's going to do the 15,000 and just get new siding, they could be done in 3 months or less. Or then there could be somebody that decides that they want to completely renovate the entire building. It could be an 18-month thing. So the abatements, just because they're approved in the same year, doesn't necessarily mean that the abatements would occur or begin in the same year.
I
Go ahead.
actually do have a couple of examples if you'd like to hear them.
Sure.
And we did discuss it briefly in the work session. So let's just say, with an investment for residential, which is assessed at 19%, if there was an investment of $150,000, the maximum tax abatement would be over 12 years, and we did rough numbers, and it would be about $3,300 in abatement per year for a residential home that invested $150,000. So looking at commercial, I'll go with so for commercial, if they invested $150,000, so we'll keep the dollar amount the same, it would be roughly about $6,200 per year in abatement.
Yes.
And if somebody is buying, so are we including the cost to purchase a property that needs to be renovated as well in the total abatement? So just for an example, so if somebody bought a property on Main Street that needed to be renovated for whatever it was going to be used for eventually, would they be able to include the cost of the building itself in their project costs?
Sorry, right now I'm getting to the redevelopment plan policy because it is briefly discussed in there.
We ought to have music for these pauses.
So to answer your question, no, the land acquisition cost would not be included because that is not an improvement.
Thank you.
Councilman Trutzel.
Patrick, for other cities that have similar situations like such as we're talking about here, do they have retroactive?
So typically there are what we refer to as pilot projects, which are projects that have begun construction prior to the approval of the redevelopment plan. I don't know of any that have gone like 2 years back, for example, but cities sometimes do approve projects for abatement that are already in the construction phase prior to approval of the redevelopment plan.
Something fairly recent.
Yes, exactly.
And that what I'm thinking about is the state law, where to pass a law. We can't go back and say, well, they passed a law, and now I'm not liable anymore for what happened now.
Yeah, I mean, but you could still, again, Chapter 353 is a little bit different. There's not a but-for test in Chapter 353, so that beginning construction work prior to approval doesn't automatically cut off the ability to receive benefits. So that's why you can be retroactive. Again, it would just be up to the city council to determine whether or not they want to do retroactive, whether or not they want to have a cutoff, whether or not there's just no retroactive at all. That would just come before the city council.
Thank you.
Councilman Finn.
Yes, so after acquisition of a property, would demolition be included in part of the possible 353 in improvement to the property?
Demolition is included.
So did everybody
Demolition
hear
is
that?
included, Carolyn?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, did you get the information you needed? And so we're okay to go.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Without any further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. And thank you there. Okay. G, a motion approving both readings of Bill number 2021-18.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2021 adopted city budget.
Present. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Councilwoman Davidson.
Can somebody provide a little bit of background on this for folks watching?
This is the final budget amendment of this fiscal year, and it appropriates additional contractual expenditures that we had to do because we received additional revenues.
Does that give you enough information? Anybody else? All right. Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Second.
Okay. We've got a motion second. Any discussion at all? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Motion approving the second reading of Bill number 2021-18.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2021 adopted city budget.
Present.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Seeing none.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Peak. Aye. Davidson,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Finn,
Aye.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Van Winkle,
Aye.
Savage,
Aye.
Mayor Davis.
Aye, and that motion passes. H, motion approving both readings of Bill number 2021-19.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $6,660,000 principal amount of general obligation refunding and improvement bonds, Series 2021, of the City of Belton, Missouri, and authorizing certain other documents and actions by the city.
Present.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Motion approving the second reading of Bill number 2021-19.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $6,660,000 principal amount of general obligation refunding and improvement bonds, Series 2021, of the City of Belton, Missouri, and authorizing certain other documents and actions by the city.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Van Winkle,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Lathrop,
Aye.
Finn,
Aye.
Trutzel,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Savage,
Aye.
Peak.
Okay. Next, we have a first reading, and I don't have any numbers on this one, so I got to go down on this one and get it off my computer. And that's, what letter is that? Aye, yeah, I don't have it. Okay, motion approving Resolution R 2001-19.
A resolution authorizing the City Council of Belton, Missouri to appoint Ronald Peak, Marcia Vest, and Diane Huckshorn as directors of the Industrial Development Authority of the City of Belton, Missouri.
Motion is second. Discussion.
Mayor,
Councilman?
I need to recuse myself from this.
Well, don't drink the coffee. Go ahead. Thanks. Councilman Clark?
My only question is, typically we approve these all up in the, as consent agenda, and I'm just trying to figure out why this one's different. Like if we did a board or planning and zoning or,
No, typically that would happen. This just didn't happen on this one at this time. But you're right.
Don't tell him that.
I think the reason why, actually, now that I recall, the reason we did that is so that Councilwoman Peak could recuse herself.
Oh, I get you, okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Any
Sorry,
other
just had to remember.
discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Does anybody care to explain the Industrial Development Authority to some of the folks listening?
The Industrial Development Authority is an agency of, basically a political subdivision of the state of Missouri that was created by the city of Belton a significantly long time ago and has not done really any projects over the past 20-something years? But it is an economic development tool that it is smart to just keep around. Essentially what they do is they act as a conduit issuer for development projects where one of the best examples is John Knox Village in Lee Summit. All of that has been funded with IDA bonds. It's a way for a developer to receive a lower interest rate on financing. And there is no property tax abatement, but it's just a way to issue some bonds that could provide lower cost financing for developers.
Was that clear? Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. You can come back now. Okay. Turning the page, we're back to you, Councilwoman. We're City Council Liaison, Park.
All right, we got a few things going on, folks. This weekend, we have an Easter egg hunt in Memorial Park. All activities will be outside only, and that begins at 10 a.m., and then the hunt is actually at 11 a.m. This is happening kind of at the same time as the stream cleanup. The stream cleanup kicks off in Wallace Park with registration at 8:30, so you could, in theory, do both. But they have the Parks Department has flyers on their Facebook page. That's all out there and circulating. They have also this week announced the return of the Hy-Vee Summer Fest. That's on Saturday, June 5th, from noon to 10 p.m. in Memorial Park. It will include fireworks, a live band, kids pedal tractor pull, cornhole tournament, which I will do, crafters, food trucks, and more. That flyer is also available on their Facebook page. So they've put that info out this week. They've also put out the info that they are assuming command of the Belton Farmers Market, and we're really excited about that. That will continue to be Thursdays from 4 to 7 p.m. in Memorial Park, and that runs June through October. They're also working in cooperation with the Downtown Belton Merchants for cruise nights, so that'll be the fourth Saturday of each month, and that runs from April to September, starting at 4 p.m. on Main Street. They're also busy finalizing the dates and shows for theater in the park that will return this summer. One show in June and then one in July. Thank you.
Is there an age limit for the Easter egg hunt?
In my opinion, no.
Wow. Okay. Wow, they had the theater in the park. They had their big auction, and that was a big success. Do you know, Brian, how much money that they made that night? Do we know yet? But it was pretty spectacular. I know Terry was there, and it was a great evening. It was a good deal. Okay, so Mayor's communication again. We've got to stay safe. I've been watching all the news about the people that are going to the beach, and folks, you got to be smart. We've got to be safe. We've got to be cautious. I find people all the time that it's way too soon to start dropping your guard. You got to be careful. You got to be really wise. City Manager, you're up.
Yeah, I did want to provide a slight clarification from earlier this evening and make sure that we discuss it fully. One of the council, and I'm sorry, I don't remember which one of you asked about our water rates and where we were at and the portion about debt service. And Councilman Clark, I think it was you. I did just want to help explain and have Sheila speak to this as well, that our rates are the same for usage, but non-residential customers pay a higher amount for debt service. So I wanted to make that clarification that water rates are the same. It's the debt service that is different. Is that correct? Okay.
Does anybody
It's what you
question?
said, Councilman Clark.
That's what I said, right?
Yeah,
My debt
it is,
service was
but
higher.
staff didn't speak to it, and I've already received a couple emails from the community asking for clarification. I thought we'd just clarify it to everybody right
Okay.
here. But it's what you said.
Is that 2 rights in the same evening? That's pretty good. That's good stuff.
And then, Mayor, the only other thing that I had was to share in the stream cleanup that's occurring Saturday. There will be employees from the city that are helping volunteer and will be there to work the event. And I know that Rotary is there, that this is their one of their cleanups, that they've adopted a stream in the city of Belton, and they'll be there working as well.
Okay. Councilman Clark?
How long does that event take?
It starts at 8:30. People are usually over by 11 or 11:30 because the Lions Club always serves up hamburgers and hot dogs, and everybody's there for the eats. So everybody works. And by that time, to be honest, after you've climbed up and out of ditches, you're ready for a break. So
You could do like I do, get there about 11:30 and
we get a good crowd, and we hope that people will participate again this year, because the more you have, the quicker you can get things picked up.
you won't believe what they pull out of there.
Oh, my gosh.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all for you then, you
That's
say?
all. Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, communications from City Council. Who's got anything tonight? Councilman Clark?
I just got one thing, Mayor. The annual Merle Clark Scholarship golf tournament's coming up on May 1, so any business owners out there watching tonight, if you'd like to sponsor, please get a hold of me. We have 40 teams signed up, so your name will be in front of 160 people, not counting the volunteers that come out. So that's money raises scholarships for the Belton High School athletes. Thank you.
You gotta recuse yourself from that now. Okay. So that takes one away. That is a good deal. How long have we been doing that now?
This is our 8th year, I believe it is.
Do you remember that your dad was our scorekeeper all those years of baseball?
My dad was baseball, softball scorekeeper. He also ran the clocks for football, basketball, volleyball, you name it, he was there, so.
Good stuff. Okay, what do we got next? No other things from the communications from City Council? None?
Move to adjourn?
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are closed. Thank you.